I think they're looking for a space where they can be comfortable, perhaps make some NIL money in the process, but be better set up long-term as opposed to it being 1 year jumping around.
You want to kind of get your core players that have been here a couple of years, and then go get the high-profile recruit and then supplement at the transfer portal.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the two games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
NewsWire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
Sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on sports.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. As we get closer and closer to the heat of the NBA playoffs, approaching a full second round, we've got a recap and preview of all of the games going on tonight and a look back at what happened last night as well. In fact, my co-host on Fantasy Sports Today, Davis Mattek, will be with us a little bit later in the show, so stay tuned to that. Pat Evans joins us from Legal Sports Report. We've got a sports betting legal update going on in Minnesota, so make sure for those of you who are living out there, you'll want to stay tuned for that as well. Also, Matthew Lutovsky joins us from Sporting News to put a bow on the NFL draft. And we have the SportsGrid sound off taking you around the National Hockey League as well. Those are some of the things that we're working on here on the show. But of course, there are some other headlines that we need to get to surrounding the sports betting space. And the first one begins the story that just continues right now and has taken an interesting turn, that the interpreter for Shohei Ohtani, Ippei Matsuhara, apparently had all of the money that he stole from Shohei Ohtani sent over to a sports book. This is correct. $500,000 payments Ippei sent from Shohei Ohtani's bank account to an illegal bookmaking operation that were forwarded to California and Las Vegas legal casinos, where the money was deposited in gambling accounts and then converted to playing chips, which were later cashed out to pay the bookie. Now, of course, the alleged bookie named Matthew Boyer, he is the one that took Mitsuhara's bets, was a customer at the casino. He paid his losses through Boyer's associate, who forwarded the money to a marker, which is what is called when the money comes out in chips in a casino. Then the men withdrew the chips from the marker account, gambled with them, and if they won, they cashed out. So another twist and turn to the story of Shohei Ohtani's now former interpreter. In the NBA last night, boy, what an incredible game. Let's just be honest. Doesn't matter if you're a Knicks fan or a Philadelphia 76ers fan, but Philadelphia is not going quietly into the night. They defeated the New York Knicks yesterday, mostly in part to Tyrese Maxey. Maxey had a career game, folks. 46 points, 9 assists, and 5 rebounds, and they won in overtime despite the Knicks leading late. New York still leads the series 3-2 as this heads back, of course, to an incredible scene that's going to happen in Philadelphia. No doubt about that as they head back to Game 6. Tyrese Maxey talked about the end-game shots that he made in regulation and obviously winning this one in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, we knew we had to get some threes up. I mean, I just tried to get to a spot and raise and shoot. Thankfully, he jumped, and I didn't get my feet set like right away to shoot it. So I was able to just kind of lean in and make a shot.
And what about the other one at the end of regulation?
I mean, that's just a lot of reps, going right, throwing the ball out, chasing it, and Rico been on me all year about shooting the deep ones, and I've been working on it all year, so it pays off. Going through my mind right there was just find a way to survive. Like I said, our season's on the line. I mean, like, I trust my work. I trust what I've done all my life, and just try to get to a spot and raise up and knock a shot down.
Let's see if Jalen Brunson can respond to Maxi's performance. These guys have been going back and forth. Now, Indiana Pacers, Milwaukee Bucks, a way more competitive series than anybody could have imagined as the Bucks pulled this one off last night thanks to Chris Middleton and Bobby Portis. Of course, they were underdogs in the game. They win outright, and it wasn't close. 115-92, the final in this game yesterday, as the Pacers just seemed to go back and forth with Halliburton. It's one good game, one bad game, one good game, one bad game. That's sort of how it's riding right now. But again, a game 6 is coming up. Middleton will be, of course, the focus. Who knows if Giannis is going to play? Damian Lillard still so uncertain with all these injuries going on with the Bucks. But Middleton talked about getting off to a great start and a big win and surprising win in Indiana.
I want to come out and be aggressive, set the tone. Been in this position many times before, so just come out and be aggressive. I think that was just my main focus. And then, figure it out from there. I think after a couple misses, I think I took one or two bad ones and just, tried to play the game after that. Pat Bev talked to me a little bit about what he was seeing, about the crowd I was drawing, and, he was right. So after that, just tried to, find guys, whenever I had the ball. Yeah, it's just, it starts with our defense first, be able to get stops, and then play at our pace, whether we're pushing it or, we're playing through sets or it's just controlling the game. I thought, Pat Bev, Pat Connaughton, everybody that was handling the ball, they did a great job of picking and choosing, when we're going to slow it down a little bit, but also when we're going to run and push the tempo a little bit more.
And they've been playing great basketball. We'll see if it will translate as they continue. Meanwhile, another series is going 6 games. The Orlando Magic came up just short last night against the Cleveland Cavaliers, almost flipped the series, but Cleveland now leads the series 3-2, 104-103 the final yesterday. Another big game for Donovan Mitchell, 28 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. The Magic, of course, covered that 5-point spread, almost won the game outright. All right, well, the NBA on NBC could potentially be coming back. NBC Sports is working on a $2.5 billion package to air NBA games, as Turner Sports could be losing the NBA. NBC is trying to pull off, as we would say, a late game steal, and the NBA, of course, is negotiating this. And by the way, Inside the NBA, which is a show on TNT, if it does not stay on TNT, it will move over to NBC or even potentially Amazon. So that will continue. The network NBC aired games from 1990 through 2002 with Michael Jordan riding high during that era. Meanwhile, Kristaps Porzingis riding low, not going to be playing, it looks like, several games. He's got a calf strain, will be out for the Boston Celtics as they take on the Miami Heat in their next closeout game. Porzingis didn't appear to be touched by anyone, but naturally was in a walking boot after the game, and a calf strain is definitely going to hold him out for several games, so don't expect to see him unless they continue, which is certainly possible as they have a closeout game coming. Meanwhile, the Knicks will be without Bojan Bogdanovic. He's undergoing season-ending surgeries for his wrist and foot injury. He's been dealing with the wrist since Sunday's Game 4 over the 76ers, so do not expect to see him back again unless they make a late run as well. And by the way, another game without Kawhi Leonard, which we'll preview coming up tonight against the Dallas Mavericks. Kawhi going to be off the court yet again. The series is just incredible going back and forth, but Kawhi not going to be a part of it, at least for tonight. Now, the Los Angeles Angels have the best player in the past decade in Major League Baseball. There's no debating it in Mike Trout, but unfortunately his career looks a lot like Ken Griffey Jr.'s torn meniscus for Mike Trout. Going to miss an extended period of time with surgery, the S word that nobody wants to hear. A really tough blow again for the Angels and again for Mike Trout, who has struggled to stay healthy. No timetable on his return. Ellie De La Cruz is red hot for the Cincinnati Reds. Check out this. He's got 18 stolen bases now on the season, which is more than the entire Cubs, Rockies, Twins, Giants, Cardinals, Rangers, Tigers, A's, Diamondbacks, White Sox, Marlins, Pirates, Yankees, Blue Jays, Astros, and Mariners teams individually. Crazy stat there. Jack Flaherty faced his former team yesterday. He struck out the first 7 batters of the game. Of course, he used to pitch for the Cardinals and did a great job. Finished with a career-high 14 strikeouts in 6 2/3 innings for the Detroit Tigers, who have been a surprise this season in Major League Baseball. And speaking of surprises, last night, the Colorado Rockies got off to a 5-0 lead against the Marlins, who had lost 7 games in a row. They end up losing in extra innings, which means they have trailed in 29 straight games to start the season, which is a Major League Baseball record since 1910. My gosh, come on, Rockies, get together just a little bit. All right, in the National Hockey League, we had some closeouts last night. Let's get to them. Colorado Avalanche defeat the Winnipeg Jets. They move on to the second round. Final score 6-3. No surprise, Colorado wins the series. The Carolina Hurricanes, they defeated the Islanders by a final score of 6-3. They also win the series 4-1. So we have some hockey moving on. Zach Wilson, meanwhile, former quarterback of the New York Jets, was traded over to the Denver Broncos. Broncos announced yesterday they are not going to pick up his 5th-year option, which should be the least surprising piece of news I deliver here on the show. And also, the Jacksonville Jaguars have released Zay Jones from their wide receiving core. All right, coming up next, the NFL Draft is in the books. Lots of trades happening, of course, including the Philadelphia Eagles setting a record for it. Matt Lutovsky joins us from the Sporting News. We'll also see about what Matt thinks the Baltimore Ravens did on draft day. So NFL talk coming up next here exclusively on NewsWire. We'll be right back.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cast the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's
yes!
how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from what's not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the 2 games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire. As we move forward on the NFL Draft, next stop is OTAs and training camp. Matt Lutovsky joins us as we review some of the things teams did as we get closer and closer to the start of the NFL season and the summer as well. Hey, Matt, great to have you back here on NewsWire. And look, the draft provided a lot of drama without a doubt. The top story, of course, Michael Penix, and people still talking about that now. But maybe we should be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. Another wild day for Howie Roseman and company, making a ton of trades. They end up with a ton of players too. I mean, this is just, Matt, one team that is not afraid to grind the roster.
Not at all. And I think you just look at the situation. They have a Super Bowl ready roster, and they just need to make a little bit of tweaks, some additions, and next thing you know, they're right back in the Super Bowl. So they did what they had to do, or what they felt they had to do. And certainly secondary was a big position in need last year. They went out and addressed that with their first 2 picks, getting the 2 guys that some people feel were the 2 best corners in the draft, if not the best 2, at least 2 of the best 3 or 4. And I think it's tough to imagine a team with 2 rookie defensive backs, not getting targeted and having a ton of success. But at the very least, you did improve. And I think that's going to go a long way next year, especially in a division where you certainly know that the Cowboys are going to be a potent offense, and you have some other teams that really beefed up their wide receivers or their quarterback situations. And you're going to, certainly need a little bit more strength in the secondary against them too. Never mind once you get into the playoffs and you're facing the 49ers or the Lions or the Falcons or whoever you're facing. So I think a great 3 days for them. They made some other nice picks later on, getting some, positions of need and getting some depth and getting some unique players like with Johnny Wilson, who could be a huge red zone threat for them. Getting him in the 6th round, I think, was a really smart pick, an interesting pick that I'll be interested to see if they can, really make him into something, if not next year, in the next year after that. So I thought just a great draft for them, and the type of draft that teams who are one step away from winning a Super Bowl, that's the kind of draft they have.
Yeah, it does make sense. And again, attacking a lot of positions of need early and then some depth later on. And by the way, Matt, they are 14-1 to win the Super Bowl. So they have some of the shortest odds in the NFL, 6.5-1 to win the NFC Championship. Their win total is 10.5 going into the year. Is there any temptation with any of these lines here on FanDuel? For me, it's like way too early to look at this stuff. I like to wait till training camp, but how about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think the win total is sort of the most interesting one. And you got to look at their schedule. And obviously, we don't know when they're playing each team or the order, but we know who they're playing. And the schedule is not easy for them. But nonetheless, you like the fact they get 4 games in division against the Giants and Commanders, who are probably going to be improved this year, but still are going to be a tier below the Eagles for sure. So the win total is a little more interesting to me out of all the rest, but that's still a pretty high number. So you have to feel pretty confident in what you're betting on, especially with some key players, veteran players gone, especially Jason Kelce, which it's tough to evaluate how that's really going to affect the team, at least in May.
Yeah, it is. And training camp will start. We'll get a better view of it. Now, we don't need a better view of the Baltimore Ravens. They seem to draft very well every year, Matt. Even if they have a bust or two, generally speaking, they come out with players who play. And especially in their first through 4 rounds this year, my gosh, like getting a defensive back, a linebacker. And, I wonder if this is one of the steals of the draft, and Tez Walker, the wide receiver in North Carolina. I mean, so much talked about him over the last couple of years. We didn't see him a ton, but that's the team that basically said, let's take a shot here to go along with some of the great receivers that they already have. I know you're a big fan of what they did too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Ravens are a classic example every year of a team that lets the draft come to them. And they're the guy. They always remind me, this is the most I could relate to it anyway, being in fantasy football, as the fantasy football owner who they clean up the mess. Oh, this guy fell. We'll take him then. We'll take him. And that's what they just do all draft long. And they maybe make a move here or there where they feel there's really good value and they want to go get him. But for the most part, they just get great value at all points in the draft. They say, well, what do we need to upgrade? Okay, we need a defensive back. Let's get some running back depth. Let's get some wide receiver depth. And they went and did it. So a fantastic draft again. This is a team that's perennially on the doorstep. That is right there. They're contenders, absolutely. And then they just go and replenish after they lose some key people in free agency. So very impressed. Another team like the Eagles, they need some defensive back help. Let's go get some defensive backs. TJ Tampa was a guy, I don't know what channel you were watching the draft on, but he was sitting there as the best available for what felt like hours. And then finally the Ravens come along and take him. And, how good he is, I guess we'll find out. But either way, just seemed like a great value pick. So another great job by them.
All right, finally, let's get to the Washington Commanders. They've gotten good draft grades before from a lot of folks, Matt, and this year is no different. Look, there's no question that they're going to be headed in a much better direction with a new owner. but I don't know. Like, is this still a work in progress here? They definitely are loading up on help for their new quarterback, Jaden Daniels. They absolutely took a receiver, and McCaffrey is going to be very reliable there. I like the fact that they took an offensive lineman and a blocking tackle in Ben Sinnott, but you like what they did, but is it more for the future? I guess that's the question, Matt, because it seems like anytime a new ownership takes over every professional team in sports, there's usually that 2 or 3 year window of sort of getting things going the right way.
Yeah, and I think that's the case here. I think after what CJ Stroud did last year, people are going to want that or expect that from a lot of these top quarterbacks, but it's just not what we usually see. So as much as I like Jaden Daniels, it might be a little bit of a slow burn, but I think they got him some nice players. And certainly you mentioned McCaffrey, very reliable, but he's coming from a small school. He's a converted quarterback, so it might take him a little time at the NFL. But I like what they did defensively. They really needed to beef up that defense, and they got really good players there in the second and third round, even if the second round pick might be a little bit of a luxury pick, which is weird to say. But nonetheless, a very good pick. And I think this is going to be a team to watch in 2 years. Who knows? They could surprise this year. It's the NFL. It happens every year. There's a surprise team. So I'm really excited to see what they do.
All right, great grades. Appreciate you breaking it all down with us, Matt. We'll catch up again next week. Thanks for coming on NewsWire.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, coming up next, time to preview tonight's game between the Heat and the Celtics. Also, some hockey games with Joe Madden. Don't go away.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cast the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's
yes!
how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from what's not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the two games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. You shouldn't be surprised by now that the Miami Heat and Boston Celtics don't really like each other. I don't know if it's as serious as if you go back way back when the Heat used to battle the Knicks in the playoffs, but it's sort of the new rivalry in the East where no matter how good Boston has been, the Miami Heat have tested them and even beaten them. Now, look, this time around it's a little bit different. Jimmy Butler is not part of this go-around. Terry Rozier is not part of this go-around. And the Heat is just undermanned. But they did pick up one win in the series, and they're certainly up against it tonight. They're a huge underdog. And if the Heat loses, then the Celtics end up moving on. And the Heat's playing without other players, too. A lot of players hurt for them as well. But an incident happened in one of the previous games, of course, where one of the players on the Boston Celtics was fouled pretty hard, and Jason Tatum, and a bunch of the players didn't like the way that it went. Now, Al Horford, believe it or not, still playing in the NBA, I believe it's like almost 20 years, talked about the hard foul committed by the Heat and the fact that he doesn't really know which way this could go in the next game.
Yeah, I know that we get to playing around and trying to contest shots after fouls and things like that, but there's levels to contest, and if a guy's shooting and the play's over with, just kind of let him be. I know he's trying to compete over there, but I was just mad. I don't want to see any of my guys get hurt or anything like that. So thankfully JT's fine, but it could have been bad.
Well, we'll see what happens tonight, if there's any retaliation, so to speak. Bam Adebayo is the player that he did not mention by name, but that's who he's referring to. And again, if Boston wins tonight, they end up clinching the series. Meanwhile, the NFL draft is in the rearview mirror. The number one pick overall, of course, went to the Chicago Bears, but they weren't done by just taking Caleb Williams. Naturally, they received additional picks, and they're moving on with a different quarterback and some really upgraded offensive talent, if you think about all the things they've done over the last couple of years. But as far as their draft class is concerned, somebody who had a close eye on it was our very own Ben Stevens from the early line. And he talked about how well the Bears did as they approach OTAs and training camp.
An A+. That's what I would give the Chicago Bears for their 2024 NFL draft class. Only 5 picks in total for Chicago, but each one immediate impact. Caleb Williams, the quarterback, first overall. Rome Odunze, 9th overall, also in the top 10. And then into day number 2, Karan Amegadou, an offensive lineman out of Yale. Day number 3, the punter, the game-changing punter at that, Torrey Taylor, out of Iowa, and Austin Booker, an edge rusher out of Kansas. Each and every player should make an immediate impact for this Bears organization. A pair offensively in Caleb and Rome that will shape the future for Chicago on that side of the football. And listen, the expectation is now there for the Bears franchise, favored to make the playoffs in the 2024 NFL season. Lofty expectations now in the Windy City. Craig, back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Ben. Catch Ben on the early line, and certainly did not even know that the Bears were favored to make the playoffs. I mean, I guess when you think about it, the Minnesota Vikings probably not going to be favored to go to the playoffs. Usually a team that's favored to just about get there, minus 110 each way. All right, finally, tonight, some big games in the National Hockey League. Boy, the NHL loves the fact that Connor McDavid is 1 win away from moving on to the next round. Joe Madden has a preview of Kings, Oilers, and Knights Stars.
Things are being so hot out there on the ice, and I'm looking for an exciting one tonight between the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, this series is tied 2-2 apiece. We're going into Game 5, and the road team has won each of these games. I'm looking for that trend to hold true. I'm taking the Vegas Golden Knights with the beautiful plus money on the money line. The second game, the LA Kings facing the Edmonton Oilers. This series is 3-1 for the Edmonton Oilers, so the Kings facing elimination tonight. I do think we get that offensive production out of them. Will they find the back of Skinner's net, though? I'm not sure. I do expect that puck to be firing at it. I'm going to circle Kempe here, the LA Kings. 4+ shots on goal. That's coming in at plus 108. This game should equal some fireworks. Look for a strong performance out of both of these teams. Back to you, Craig.
All right, thanks very much, Joe. And of course, the National Hockey League is going, I think, in a fantastic direction with some way some of these games have panned out. Now, the series in particular, as Joe said, have not gone as deep as maybe the NHL would like. We're getting some series that are ending very quickly. But once you get to the next round, the Stanley Cup playoffs really heats up on the ice. Thanks again to Joe for breaking those games down for us. All right, coming up next, we got Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. We'll touch on the latest on 3 different states and the sports betting prospects to legalize in the future. Minnesota, Alabama, and Mississippi, although there's a little bit complicated with Mississippi. There is legal sports betting, just not online. We'll talk about that coming up next. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you for the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cast the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's
yes!
how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the two games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Big week with a lot of earnings calls going on, so Pat Evans doesn't really get a chance to see the sunlight as he's locked up listening. I know Matt Waters said he is yesterday. I'm sure, Pat, you are too. So I guess that'll come out over the next couple of days, right? I mean, these earnings calls are always interesting to see how much the sports betting operators are making. But I know we're going to focus on other topics today, but I know that's in your future.
Yeah, I mean, those every 4 times a year we get these big earnings weeks, and it's actually a couple of weeks really. And yeah, Matt and Sam mostly get to listen to all those calls, so our readers don't have to. So there's that. I'll listen to a few, but right now we're in the final stretch of legislative season, and that's yesterday was an incredibly busy day, which is a perfect reason why I'm here today.
Yeah, and I would say that of all of the states to have legalized sports betting, I think Mississippi is one of the most peculiar of all because they were first on board getting sports betting, and they have it in the casinos there, on the river and all of that. And it was like a huge deal at the time. And then several years later, for people who don't know, if you go to Mississippi, yes, you can bet on sports, but you have to be there in the casino in person. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is the only state or one of the only states to have this happen. It's just so bizarre to me that they could legalize sports betting, basically saying it's okay, but they can't get this in order to have you be able to bet on your phone, on the apps and everything else. If you would have told me this 3 years ago, Pat, I would have been shocked. I would have said they would have been first.
I mean, really, you're right. They were one of the first states to legalize sports betting in casinos, which makes sense. They've got a pretty rich gambling history. But it's almost like they missed the boat on the statewide online sports betting. That was the best time to do that right when they did it from the get-go. Because now we're sitting here 6 years later. They launched sports betting in 2018, but you can't bet outside of casino properties. And, last year we had a legislator come out. We've had it every year pretty much where a legislator proposes online sports betting. And it kind of just doesn't go anywhere. And last year, they turned one of these bills into a study, and the legislators met all last fall. I think it was a couple, 4 times that they came together and talked about the big issues, what was going to happen, what do we need to do. And that informed Rep. Casey Ure's bill this year, and he came in and it cruised through the House. I think it was about 85% of legislators Don't know that right off the top of my head, so don't quote me with that. But a huge margin of victory in the House.
Yeah.
Went to the Senate. They stripped everything out of the bill, and they went to conference committee to try to work out whatever was the issue for the Senate. And it died because of a deadline that they didn't meet on Monday. And so online sports betting yet again is dead in Mississippi. So they'll have to wait at least another year, unless, I've had one source suggest that there's a chance a lawmaker will go ahead and amend an existing bill that's still alive to include online sports betting. And that would be one way they could still get it done. But, we're working on a very short time frame. They adjourn on May 5th, which it's May 1st already somehow. And so they're running very short on time. And, they're going to be at least 7 years, basically, from launch of in-person sports betting to online sports betting. And that's if they can all get on the same page next year, which, again, has been a huge problem the last couple of years.
Yeah, very strange that this just doesn't get done and they just keep talking about it. All right, at least we do have some definitive news on Alabama. I don't know how to interpret this, Pat. I mean, I guess, I'm not surprised to see that we're going to be talking about this because Alabama's not going to have sports betting legalized this year and doesn't look like next year either. But they did legalize a key part of some gambling in Alabama, which is just super rare. And it looks like it's, what are these, electronic games that they've legalized? So very small progress maybe along those lines, but any progress is kind of surprising in Alabama. I thought it would be a complete zero.
I mean, Alabama is at this point is still one of 5 states without a lottery. And so any sort of gambling issues was going to be a huge hurdle coming into this year. We knew there was going to be a bill. We figured it would be on the Senate side, which has passed comprehensive lottery bills that have included sports betting in the past. But that wasn't the case. It ended up in the House, which kind of seemed like a really good sign because they're the ones who let it die in the past. They used those Senate bills from the past to kind of formulate their view, and they introduced and passed rather handedly a comprehensive lottery bill, again, that included full casino gaming and sports betting. And that went to the Senate, who, again, this bill was based on a Senate bill in the past that has passed. And the Senate changed quite a few things, stripping out casino gaming, stripping out sports betting, and the House non-concurred. They went to a conference committee, which finally met last week, or yesterday, sorry. And one of the first things they said, it was less than 2 minutes into the thing, is there's no sports betting in this. And so that was a definitive, that's done this year. They did end up, in the legislation, there is a lottery and slot machines, or I guess games of chance on computer devices is basically the language they used at 7 locations in the state. It directs Governor Kay Ivey to enter a compact negotiations with the Porch Band of Creek Indians. So it's a huge step in gambling in Alabama. However, no sports betting. Senator Al Britton, who is a proponent from the Senate side, said this is a big step. We got one thing done, so we pissed everybody off, but it's still a step in the right direction. So we'll see where it goes in the future. Maybe next year we see a sports betting bill. We'll see. It still has a little bit of a hurdle. Last night, the House approved that compromise. The Senate didn't quite. They failed by 1 vote. They have 4 legislative days done. I think they'll figure it out and get it done. Then it'll go to voters in a special election in August. And I would imagine they'll approve it as well. So at least Alabama seems like they're on the verge of having a lottery and some, slot machines in the state.
All right, finally, let's cap it off here with the latest in Minnesota. Nothing closer to being legalized, but somewhat of a framework plan put in place, it looks like, Pat, here, if indeed it does ever get legalized, but some very strange, it looks like, restrictions and some, I would say, murkiness to this potential idea that this representative has?
Yeah, Minnesota's just kind of bouncing around. They had a committee meeting in the House. It's been committed out, basically. They just keep going to different committees, kind of trying to figure out what can stick and what doesn't stick. And, they're at a point where now Republicans are saying that it's not going to pass. And that's a huge step in the negative for this bill because, coming into this session, you needed both parties And if the Republicans are already writing it off, they have until May 20th. It doesn't look good. And that's because, we've had a couple developments. The tracks have come in, or the tribes have said that the tracks can't have HHR machines, which the Gaming Commission said they could. Then you get the tracks suing a couple of the tribal casinos. So that's a huge issue. And then bogging it down even further on the Senate side, a Democratic senator was arrested last week, and she was stripped of her committee signs, but the Republicans wanted her to be stripped of her voting rights. That didn't happen. And so we had Republican representatives yesterday saying this is a huge mess. And it just keeps getting more complicated and less likely to pass. So, as you know, the last couple of years I've come in and said Minnesota is going to be the state to get it done.
Right.
For a second straight year, I'm going to have to eat my words and maybe come in and say they'll get it done next year, but we'll see what happens. But so far, it doesn't seem good in Minnesota.
Yeah, well, listen, predictions are meant to go right and wrong, and nobody knows for sure on this stuff. Pat, great, as always, content. Thanks for coming on NewsWire. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I know that includes some listening in on earnings calls, some lawn work, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Thanks for coming on the show.
Great. Thanks as always, Craig. Talk soon.
All right, Pat Evans. Follow him on social media and also his work over at LegalSportsReport.com. Coming up next, it's time to preview tonight's NBA games with Davis Mattek of SportsGrid and Fantasy Sports Today. We'll be back after this quick timeout, so make sure you stay with us as we're 2 minutes away from telling you who's going to win tonight. I'll go ahead.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. Taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you for the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cast the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the two games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Each and every Saturday morning, you can catch me and Davis Mattek reviewing the latest in fantasy baseball as we get closer and closer to the I would say the pivotal part of the fantasy baseball season, Memorial Day, and of course talking some NBA. That's Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern right here on SportsGrid. But Davis joins me now because, of course, we got some NBA games to discuss, and Davis is watching these keenly. So, Davis, thanks again for coming on NewsWire. It's great to catch up with you, man. What's happening?
Very happy to be here. Your Miami Heat, the Southern Florida experience. Everyone is going to get treated to it tonight, and you can never tell a Heat fan, you can never tell Eric Spoelstra, you can never tell any of these guys that it's over.
Yeah, well, we'll see if it is tonight. But before we look ahead, let's look back here. The New York Knicks probably felt like with about 2 minutes to go, they had this thing wrapped up. And then Tyrese Maxey put on the performance of a lifetime. And between he and Jalen Brunson, I mean, I don't know who's been more clutch in this series, but overtime win for the 76ers, 112-106. I mean, does this have the makings of a classic 7-game finish going right down to the end?
I mean, it was phenomenal. I thought it was over. I thought this game was over. I was about ready to turn it off and just move on to the next thing. Tyrese Maxey, 46 points, almost 50% of his team's points. Now Embiid did the best he could. Did not play was not particularly effective shooting. And the Knicks, man, they are just exhausted. Josh Hart and OG Anunoby basically never get to take a breather. Now Bogdanovich is going to be out. They have Mitchell Robinson, who couldn't even play the other night. He warmed up, tried to play, couldn't even play. Like, I think this one, I think we might be getting a classic. I sort of have a sense that this is going to end up being goes to 7 games. We get overtime in game 7. It just sort of feels that way. And I mean, for the Knicks, that's kind of a nightmare because every additional game is more attrition. For Hart playing 48 minutes, Anunoby playing 45 minutes, Jalen Brunson, one of the shorter guards in the NBA, playing 44 minutes a night. It's not great for them.
No, it isn't. But, naturally, it's where we're at. I mean, the two teams look identical now that Embiid is back on Philadelphia. All right, so I do think Indiana is going to win this series against Milwaukee. I wonder what Bucks management is thinking right now. Without their guys, they're like really competitive. I don't know if they're like sort of rethinking the construction of their team. They probably have to because with Middleton and Portis last night, they end up beating the Pacers. I know the Pacers are young, and I know that they haven't been there, and they're sort of riding the Halliburton train, right, Davis? Like the game he does well, they win. If he doesn't, they lose. Is like pretty much been the story. But I think it's probably not unprecedented to see this outcome, but it's sort of shocking to me to see the Bucks crush the Pacers. Like that is not something I saw coming.
No, I was on the Indiana Pacers last night. Pretty surprising to see a fully healthy Pacers team. They trade the 3 first-round picks for Siakam to get some experience on that roster. No Dame, no Giannis. Now, I suppose Portis did get ejected from their most recent loss in Game 4. That changes the complexion a little bit. And I mean, Chris Middleton, NBA championship experience. Portis, NBA championship experience. Patrick Beverley has been around forever. Brooke Lopez. I guess there is some continuity advantages that the Bucks can have, particularly when Lillard is not the one out there. All these guys have been playing together forever. If Dame does not go in the next game, and I'm assuming that Giannis still is like, we haven't even seen him warming up. We haven't seen him in gym shorts. I don't think we'll see him at all in this series. I do think the Pacers, youth and experience, all of that, I mean, they've got 2 cracks at it here. Although I suppose if you get to a Game 7, all bets are kind of off there. Actually, not even all bets are off. The Pacers would not win a Game 7. They're a bunch of kids. Tyrese Halliburton is 25 years old. No significant playoff experience for him.
Yeah, no, it should be a fun series, and I think that maybe the least talked about series that's been very entertaining is Magic and Cavs. It looked like Cleveland was going to just blow Orlando out of the water. The Magic come back in the next 2 games and win. And man, they had their chance to steal that game last night in Cleveland. But the Cavs win. They go up in the series 3-2. I mean, Davis, I think if Orlando won that game last night, they would have won the series. But now I'm feeling the opposite. I'm very worried now that they used everything they could to get close, but they couldn't pull it out.
Jarrett Allen did not play in that game. Tuned-in observers would realize the Jarrett Allen-Evan Mobley frontcourt really has not worked this season. There's just not enough space on offense. What ends up happening when Jarrett Allen doesn't play? Evan Mobley is awesome, gives you 14 and 13 on 7 of 11 shooting. Mitchell has a great game. Strus is inserted in the starting lineup. He's awesome. How about Marcus Morris coming off the bench? Yes, that Marcus Morris coming off the bench. It's just the way the modern NBA works, right? You just kind of need a guy who can get you some extra space on the floor. Marcus Morris can give you a lot more space than Jarrett Allen does. And honestly, this season, it's sort of all just gravy for the Orlando Magic because they were not supposed to be good. The Magic were not supposed to be a good team. They have the second, third best defense in the NBA. And they have basically the worst guard play of any team that made the playoffs.
All right, finally, let's do Heat Celtics here. Celtics up to 14-point favorites tonight. against Miami, but I'm not going to be the one to lay the 14. I don't know what's going to happen here. And by the way, Boston could win by 14. They could win by 40. They could also lose. I have no idea the Heat is impossible to read for me.
I mean, I said the same thing in game 2, like with these crazy double-digit spreads with the Heat. Don't bet the spread, just bet the money line. Just if you think that the Heat are going to be able to hang, it's really just a matter of 3-point shooting. I mean, they shot over 50% from 3 in game 2 against the Boston Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis is not going to be playing here with a calf strain. Seems like he's going to be out about 1 to 3 weeks, depending on the severity. So the Celtics, I mean, they would really like to get this series done and over with so all of their dudes can rest. Honestly, like unless Caleb Martin makes 7 threes, though, I think this will be a pretty quick game here tonight.
All right, Dallas and the LA Clippers. Flip your coin, Davis. Wake me up when it's game 7, right? Like that's where this is going.
Almost feels like we are locked in for 7 games, but no Kawhi Leonard. Amir Coffey has been starting for the Clippers. If James Harden has one of his patented 3 for 11, 8 points, 4 turnovers games, I mean, that's not going to be good enough because then that's putting way too much on Paul George. I'm looking at Doncic having a huge game here tonight. The Mavericks were up 31 points in that game 4 and then end up choking it away. I don't think they'll do that again.
All right, Davis, great to talk to you. We'll catch up again on Saturday morning. Thanks for coming on.
Beautiful. Thanks for having me, brother.
All right, Davis Mattek, of course, follow him on social media and follow him with us here at SportsGrid on Fantasy Sports Today. We'll have Last Licks coming up next.
So I turned it off. I got my sweat done, and I'm leaving. I'm taking my money. I'm going home, and I don't want to talk to you for the rest.
Oh, yes!
There it is.
6-3. Cast the over. The over is hit. The Padres are our heroes.
That's how we end the show. That's how we end the show.
Oh, what? Let's just sign off. Let's just call it a show.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Quotes coming out about Embiid. Oh, he's a warrior. You'll never get him off the court. You're just telling me he's an injury. He's one slip and fall away from what's not seeing him anymore in this series.
I would have sat him because there was only 1 day between the 2 games. It's 2 days between games 2 and games 3, and it's 2 days between games 3 and game 4.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We're going to end with some baseball discussion. By the way, we have games starting today, 1 o'clock Eastern, tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern, so lots of day baseball on Wednesday or Thursday. New York Mets had a big promotion last night that ended up working in a very big way. Not sure why more teams don't do this, because shows like us talk about it, and they seem to get a lot of attention for it. But anyway, Citi Field last night, for those of you who attended or those who didn't, this is something that happens all around the country. Last night, Citi Field tried it. The Mets tried it. They sold $1 hot dogs last night at the game. And so you may ask yourself, how many hot dogs did they sell? Did they sell 5,000? Did they sell 10,000? How about 20? Well, folks, they sold 40,000 hot dogs last night at Citi Field. That is the all-time record for the Mets. Shea Stadium, Citi Field, wherever it is. 40,000 hot dogs. Like, how do you even make that many? Like, you have to be constantly making hot dogs, I think, to feed all the fans there. But needless to say, all-time record there for the Mets. And I would think that they'll probably do this again. And listen, the only negative to this is basically the fact that you're underselling a little bit, because hot dogs, generally speaking, are going to be sold for, I don't know, at any ballpark, what would you say, $6, $7, some places $10. But in this case, I guess you sell yourself short a little bit. And I guess how much were the buns? Buns free, right? Along with the $1 hot dog. All right, let's get to the Cincinnati Reds. Elly De La Cruz is one of, over on FanDuel and DraftKings, the favorites to win the National League MVP. Now, by favorites, meaning he's on the board. So he's not like at the top with Mookie Betts or Shohei Ohtani or some of those others, but he's like just right outside. And partially the reason is because he's incredible. He's great on defense. He's got 18, folks, 18 stolen bases already as we exit the month of April. And as you can see there, I don't know if you can see, but as I will tell you, he has more stolen bases than like a dozen teams in Major League Baseball. And in this day and age of where they basically have made it more difficult to get runners out on the bases by doing several different things. One is the pitch clock. Two is the engagement, meaning that if you throw it over to first base, that's one. So you could do it a second time. But if you don't get the guy out the third time, the guy automatically goes to second base. That's another thing. And the other thing is they've made the bases a little bit bigger. So not everybody is taking advantage of this. And there are other teams like the Arizona Diamondbacks. They haven't gotten as many steals as Corbin Carroll as they would have thought. And so there's reasons for this. But Elly De La Cruz, folks, and I know that this is maybe more so a fantasy baseball thing than a reality thing, but he is headed to the All-Star game, I am sure, in Dallas or in Arlington this season, and is quickly becoming one of the most popular players in Major League Baseball as well. So congrats to Elly De La Cruz. And those other teams, you're not stealing bases. What are you doing? You can't let one player outsteal you on the season, but indeed, that is what has happened. All right, finally, last night, as maybe some of you on the East Coast were checking out, maybe not paying attention, and you were looking at your phone and you're asking yourself, why is this Dodgers-Diamondbacks game delayed? What is happening here? Well, the reason why was because right behind home plate, a swarm of bees decided to show up and delay the affair. And essentially, there was no person who could help out. So that was the delay. The delay wasn't the bees. It was we can't get somebody here to get things fixed. Well, all of a sudden, the Diamondbacks end up calling this company called Blue Sky Pest Control, who are just loving this, by the way, today. And a gentleman by the name of Matt Hilton. He was at his son's T-ball game. Boy, I can relate to that. When he got called to remove some bees, he shows up at the game. And you guys got to check this out on social media. He was loving it. He's like fist pumping, getting rid of the bees. Again, they don't kill the bees. They put them somewhere and then they, rehouse them or whatever it is. And then he did such a great job as he's going off on the golf cart that the Diamondbacks invited him to stay. This guy threw out the first pitch at a Diamondbacks game. So imagine you're sitting there coaching your son up at a T-ball game, and then next thing you know, you're throwing out the first pitch with the Diamondbacks. Again, his name is Matt Hilton. Did a great job. Congratulations. Ceremonial first pitch to the beekeeper. No sting involved. That'll do it for our show today. Thanks again to Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News. Also, thank you to Davis Mattek, of course, from SportsGrid. And in addition, Pat Evans from Legal Sports Report. Our associate producer, of course, is Frank, and our producer is Michael Cohen, and I'm Craig Mish. Coming up next, you have the early line. And they're all set to go to tell you everything that happened last night in the NBA and NHL and some Major League Baseball as well. Then 3 o'clock Eastern, it is Coast to Coast with afternoon baseball action and previews of the games tonight in the NBA and National Hockey League. I'll see you right back here for our Thursday edition of the show tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, for our next edition of NewsWire as we get ready for the Run for the Roses with a preview of the Kentucky Derby. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. See you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Have a great day, everyone.